here, and welcome everybody to the live Wednesday Bulletin. Sorry about being a couple of minutes late there, but I just love listening to that intro over and over again. And I nearly chucked Kyran out for suggesting that Martin Waghorn scoring the third goal against Martin should have been in that intro, but there we go. Today I'm joined by Scott Cameron. How are you doing today, Scott?
Very good, mate. Looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, me too. And Kyran, it's been a while since you've been on. You've been away talking about another sort of football, but it's good to have you back.
Yeah, a complete different shape, different part of the body used as well. But nah, it's good to be talking about Rangers again, especially right in the midst of a really exciting week.
Yeah, 100%. It has been a very, very exciting week. As always, there's lots to discuss. On today's show, we're going to talk about how we expect Michael Beale's Rangers to look, and I think that's talking about personnel and the pitch, how we want them to play, and some of the members of staff off the pitch, which we've had a wee chat about off air. More discussion on the challenges that he faces. Maybe the guy's thoughts on the fact that Rangers talked to Francesco Farioli as well, which I found very interesting. I think it was Jordan Campbell led with that, and talk about Rangers draw against St Johnstone in the Scottish Cup on the 21st of January. But as always, I always like to start with a wee on this day, and I'm going to come to you first on this, Scott Cameron. I always find it weird talking about on a Wednesday, especially this time of year, talking about players that signed on this day. It just seems weird that not signing people in the summer and the January transfer windows. But in 1989, Rangers signed Nigel Spackman from QPR. I think you mentioned that Ray Wilkins went the other way, and maybe not mention too much that we've taken someone else from QPR this week. But Nigel Spackman had 124 appearances, 3 goals, 3 titles in a League Cup and a Scottish Cup. How did you feel about Spackman and his time at Rangers, Scott?
Well, I think he was successful during his time at Rangers. I think Ray Wilkins was a very different player. And when Souness brought Nigel Spackman in, you know, he obviously knew him from his time at Liverpool. He'd had injuries and what have you, but he was a bit of an all-rounder. You know, I mean, he only scored 3 goals, the most famous of which was obviously New Year's game 1990, I think it was, 1-0 win. You know, I mean, he scored a goal against Celtic to win a game, especially when you go across there. You can dine out on that for the rest of your life, sort of thing. You know, I mean, Terry Hurlock scored, and it was closely. That was just before that, but it was very much we had better players on the wings in those days. Mark Walters and Peter Houstra and guys like that. And the middle of the park was very much Spackman's job, was just break the play up. He was a bit of an all-rounder who could get a goal for you, you know. And I think he was the captain 1991 when we won the league the last day of the season. So he's been the captain last day of the season, deputising for Richard Gough when we won the league 2-0. Mark Hateley scored 2 goals, and he scored a goal to win an Old Firm game. So
yeah,
he's played 100 and whatever games. You know, he's been successful during that period, and I think I don't think we paid a lot of money for him. So, you know, and these guys contributed at that time. We were very good at bringing players in for a short period of time. At that point, 18 months to 2 years, they do the job and then you move them on, sort of thing, and that's what happened. But Spackman was a very good player, and we could do with somebody like that in the middle of the park at the moment. To be honest, he wasn't a Paul Gascoigne or an Ian Durrant or somebody like that, you know, but he was just a good pro and a good midfield player.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think maybe we are missing a guy like that in the team at the minute. Whether we bring somebody in like that in January, I think it's to be revealed, but we'll find out soon enough. And Kyran, the next, I know you and I both got very excited about this when we mentioned it, but it's not a signing on this day or anything like that, but it's Vladimir Weiss's birthday. It caught my eye, this, because it was his 33rd birthday, and I was like, is this why he's perpetually linked with us every transfer window for the last 10 years? But He joined on loan from Man City. I think he famously turned Celtic down to choose to play for us. And he won the league that year, which is title number 54 and a League Cup, scoring 5 goals. What's your memories of a guy like Vice at Rangers?
I think what particularly sticks out is the moment he put Jelavic through in extra time,
Yes.
the League Cup final against Celtic. Just that quick thinking moment of brilliance. But no, I think very much like you, Kyle, I love to be entertained, and I know he had all the wee tricks and all the sort of like the wee drop of the shoulder, and he had all the things like a modern winger should have. I was really gutted that we didn't re-sign him or we didn't hold on to him, and I think we liked him because he was, don't know, a bit cheeky off the park. I remember things like he was sitting not far from it, one of the Old Firm games, and he had quite a colourful Rangers scarf towards the Celtic fans. And the recreating Alan McGregor's penalty save when the trophy celebrations and stuff like that. So although he was here for a short period of time, he won the hearts of a lot of fans. So if he's watching, I hope he has a lovely birthday.
Yeah, that's it exactly. You've hit the nail on the head again. It's for the it's that day when the trophy, the title was getting paraded around the ground. It was his antics, and I seem to remember him doing the joof to all 4 corners of the ground many times over, and he was getting wildly lauded for it. But there we go. Look, I mean, it's no great secret. We're all here to talk about one thing and one thing only, and that's the appointment of Michael Beale for Rangers. One of the worst kept secrets in Scottish football was finally announced, and he was announced as the 18th manager of Rangers. Really keen to get your thoughts on this, Kyran, seeing as you haven't really had a chance to tell us what you think. So, are you happy with the appointment of Michael Beale?
I'm delighted, absolutely delighted. I was one of the ones that really sat in the fence with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, where it was a bit of a love-hate relationship. And all I could think about was, I really want to watch attractive football again. And see, when he knocked back Wolves, and Giovanni's job was pretty much on the cusp of gone at that point, and everybody's saying, there's no chance Beale comes, there's no chance Beale comes, he's just knocked back Wolves. But I was saying, surely you've got to ask the question, and we've went and done it, and we've secured them. So I couldn't be happier. And in terms of how good an appointment it is, it's not like we're bringing in a Van Bronckhorst or we're bringing in someone that's unknown to what's going on here this season. He's been keeping an eye because the club won him over. He became a fan, so he has been keeping an eye on what's been going on at Rangers and the players that haven't been pulling their weight and the style of football that we've been playing. And I know we'll get on to that, but for me, it's an outstanding appointment. I'm really interested to see how he does as a manager. I think that's what is a wee bit in doubt with some fans, if you get what I mean with that. But everybody spoke about what's Steven Gerrard going to be like without Michael Beale. Now we're talking about what's Michael Beale going to be like without Steven Gerrard, which is going to be the interesting thing. But we all know that Beale was the brains behind the Gerrard operation, and I am really looking forward to see what he does here. But on the other side, I feel a wee bit for him because he's got a mess to clean up. But at the same time, I think he's got it within his power to do it. Even watching the training videos, I mean, I've coached since a young age, and watching his training videos, you can tell the team are buzzing off him. And I feel that if the players are engaged in training, then they start to buy into what you want to do. So a lot of these players have played for him, and they will buy in. You might see guys like Kamara get a lift, who is very integral to most things that Beale and Gerrard done here. And I know we'll get on to talk about Kent later on, but he's someone that I'm keeping an eye on that I felt really failed under Van Bronckhorst's style of play, because I remember under Advocat as well, he loved his wingers to have his heels right out as wide as they can on the line, and that doesn't suit Kent. Kent suits coming inside and being that menace. But yeah, I'm delighted we've got Beale in the door.
Yeah, 100%. I think I'm very much in the same camp as you. I was a bit, not sceptical, but I think just due to his lack of experience, I questioned it. And I think I'd been on this podcast saying that Dyche was maybe my front runner for the job, because I thought we maybe needed a wee bit of stabilisation. But as you said, watching that training ground video, especially, and some of the interviews that he's done, all of which we'll come on to later, just got the buzz back again. And you can I was going to say you can already see changes, because I saw Glenn Kamara shoot in that training video, but don't tell too many people that. Scott, I said I'll come to you in this next point. Something that everybody that I've talked to about Beale, and just it's just a couple of wee comments from his interviews on RTV and Sky. So if you've not seen those already, I'm sure everybody watching this has seen them. But I urge everybody to go because they're fantastic interviews. But he talks about the expectation being a privilege. There's no greater expectation than here in Glasgow, and he runs towards the challenge. Something I've heard a lot of people talking about is that it's important that Beale gets it. Do you feel that this is key in his appointment, and that it's that as a Rangers man, it's important that he understands the goldfish bowl that is Glasgow and the level of expectations?
I don't think he would have came back if he wasn't, if that didn't turn him on, shall we say. He knows that every game you need to win, and he speaks about winning with a certain style, a certain way of football sort of thing. So he 100% gets it. We're in a position that by the time Santa Claus comes, we'll have played 3 times, and Michael Beale will know. And I used this a couple of nights ago, that he has to hit the ground running with positive results across those 3 games. And that's what he's talking about, the pressure. It's a privilege to have that pressure. It's a privilege to have 50,000 people inside Ibrox and the fans that travel up everywhere else. And then the hundreds of thousands of Rangers fans that are watching every week. So he gets it. He was here for 3.5 years. I think we'll digress a wee bit. His family, I think, loved Glasgow, and he had a great life. And I think that's a factor in his decision as well. I think he sort of alluded to that, but he 100% gets it. But he knows the excitement that we're all feeling just now, and enjoying the sound bites from the interviews and the training videos, very cleverly put together, and what have you. Everybody's, if you rewind back 7 days to how we're all sort of positive now and everything's great, but come the 15th of December against Hibs, we have to be on it, and we have to put on a performance and start with a win, and then try and build confidence and a bit of momentum after that.
Yeah, 100%, totally agree. And Kyran, just on the flip side of that question, so to speak, is it a worry that the expectation's already so high? Because when Gerrard came in the first time around, he had time. He definitely got a couple of years that I don't think a lot of managers would have gotten, especially now that we are back in where we belong, so to speak. But do you think that the expectations are too high, or is it just part of being Rangers Football Club, and as supporters we demand those expectations, and they should be met? And do you think he will be given time?
I think you've got to give him time. I think it's completely and utterly unfair that you wouldn't give him time. And I think what buys him time is that the support absolutely love him. I think folk were split on bringing him in as a manager, but for what he's done previously for the club, I think there's no doubt at all that everyone is behind him at Rangers to go and do well now. It's one of the ones we love someone that comes here that's not been a Rangers fan, but then he suddenly adopt us as their team. I always remember when him and Gerrard left, and I'd said it previously on this podcast, that I was a wee bit more gutted at Beale going than Gerrard going, just because how much he spoke about his kids loving Rangers and they'll grow up Rangers fans. And that really hits the heartstrings of Rangers fans who have got young kids that grow up as Rangers fans, and knowing that this guy came to the club not really knowing much about us, and he's leaving and his kids support Rangers. I think, did he not call one of his kids Alba after his time in Scotland, and now he's back here? So yeah, for me, there is expectations big time because we know what he can deliver, but at the same time, he's got time on his side in terms of he's a bit of a fan's favourite.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're correct in that. The fact we already know a wee bit about him. People that aren't I don't know, born into Rangers, so to speak. I think I can safely say that the three of us, we were sort of born into Rangers, and there was no choice in the matter. But he's got a rich football and history in terms of the clubs he's worked with, like at Liverpool and Chelsea, and over away in, was it Sao Paulo away over in Brazil we worked with?
That's right. Actually, I listened to a podcast it was a coaching podcast, and he was saying that before the Sao Paulo job, I think he was fluent in Spanish, but to take the Sao Paulo job, he had to learn Portuguese. But this was on a Friday, and he was flying out on the Monday, accepted it, and managed to learn Portuguese in 3 days. So he was so committed to it, and he knew that I had to do it. I know there's a lot of likeness between Spanish and Portuguese, so it probably helped that he understood Spanish, but that's what he was saying. The job had to be done, so I managed to learn the language in 3 days.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think I know the interview that you're talking about, and he comes across as very classy and very intelligent and very smart in all of his interviews. So yeah, that totally backs that up. Scott, I'll come to you in this next question, and it's, what do you think Michael Beale's biggest challenges will be coming in the door? For me, I was having a wee think about it, and it kind of referenced it in that Sky interview, in the RTV interview a wee bit, and it was that he was maybe a bit over familiar, a bit pally with some of the players, but he very, very definitively came out and said, I'm not really close to them. I'm not friends with them. He made that very sure. Is that a worry for you, or do you think there's other challenges that he's got to face when he's coming in?
I think the biggest challenge he's got is so many players have underperformed, and I think it's getting your Kents and your Moreloses and your Camaras up to the level that we know that they can play. I'm just using those three, but I think that's his biggest challenge. I don't think we're going to have a lot of players back that have been injured. I don't think come the Hibs game it's going to look massively different, but I think the way that those players play has to be better, and I hope that's the work over the next couple of weeks, is getting that message across, getting that intensity and getting the tempo about, and everything that he's talking about. Every game Rangers should play on the front foot and be attacking. That's the words that I love to see. That's all Rangers should ever do in every game, particularly in the domestic game. So I think just getting players back up to a level that they know, that we know that they are capable of. This is a good squad. I don't care what anybody says. There is a lot of good football players inside the training centre. There's things that we need in various positions. That's a different conversation. But you're not telling me that this Rangers squad isn't good enough to be far better than it's been over the last 3 or 4 months domestically. I just think it's get players performing better that just haven't been. I don't know if they've phoned it in. They've stopped listening to Gio, just no buying into it. But equally, getting a Yilmaz or getting an Alex Lowry, getting a Kemar Roof, who was key during 55, so doesn't quite answer your question, but I think getting more from the squad, I think, is his biggest challenge. A couple of players out of contract in the summer. What's going to happen there? I'm sure that'll be our next question.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something we'll come back to later on in the podcast. But Kyran, I'll chuck the exact same question out to you, because I think it's important that we discuss it. And what do you think that it's similar to Scott and myself in terms of the challenges that Michael Beale faces, or do you think there's something else?
Well, first and foremost, we've got to close that gap. It's 9 points just now. I think it pains me to say it, but I think a lot of fans have now conceded the league. Look at the flip side of that. Between now and the next Old Firm game, if that gap closes in any way, then it's game on when they come to Ibrox. That's the way we've got to be looking at it, and that's got to be the focus. The old cliche is take it one game at a time, and I think that's the way Michael Beale will go about it. He's too experienced not to. But I'm trying to think. In terms of the squad, I've seen a comment coming through there saying it's not the manager's the problem, it's the players. That is part of the issue. But under Van Bronckhorst, I think the players had down tools. You commonly see that with a manager. But as Scott said, he's absolutely bang on. There's a good group of players in there. I don't believe that there's a group of bad players there. Guys are going to come alive in this style of play that he played. Scott mentioned Yilmaz. I think he'll feature more than he has under Van Bronckhorst. But like I said previously, we're not bringing in a guy that knows nothing about this club. It took Van Bronckhorst something like 3 months to figure out who John Lundstrom was before he nearly left on loan and became our best player.
Yeah.
So you're going to find that he's going to come in, give guys like Glenn Kamara a lift. Scott said as well, developing that style of play. You look at guys like Kemar Roof and even Alfredo, and people were crying out for them to play 2 up front. These guys couldn't fit into that front 3 if they weren't playing as a central striker under Van Bronckhorst. Under Beale's 4-3-2-1 system, where it's 2 sort of 10s, you've seen it in the 55 season where Roof slotted in there and these numbers were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now you've got guys like Rabbi Matondo, who I've wrote off completely, who you might see come to life now. You might see come to life in this new style of play that's going to be brought about, and guys like that will feast on it. It'll give them a boost, which they really, really need at this point.
Yeah, I'm definitely coming back to you in that Rabbi Matondo comment. I've made reference to that later on my notes, but that's 2 from you today, Kyran. That's a shocking.
Clip it up, no problem. Bring Waghorn back while we're at it.
Yeah, I'll speak to this Is Ibrox media team about it. All right. Look, Scott, I know we've touched on some of these things already, but I'm really keen to get your thoughts on how you think the squad will react to Michael Beale coming in. Again, just picking up in some of the comments that he had in his interviews over the last couple of days. You know, starting the last 2 days, it's slightly different to the work they've been doing under Gio, even different to the work when he was there before. We've all got to go through it again and build the team under my ideas. I think as supporters, we've got a rough idea of what that will be. So are you expecting a return to the sort of the 4-3-2-1 that Kyran alluded to there, and we've not to call them, what was it, they're 10s, they're not wingers and inverted wingers and all this chat? Do you think we'll be going back to that?
I think it's hard to say. You know, I think he is now his own man. You know, I think it'll be interesting to see if there's a flexibility that is maybe a preferred system, but you know, you can go 4-2-3-1 or you can go 4-3-3, or I really don't know. I just think the players look happier. The training videos look at a better tempo. But how we look on the 15th against Hibs, I just expect a Rangers team, no matter how we set up, whatever formation, I expect a Rangers team on the front foot playing with a tempo. How that looks, 4-4-2, 3-5-2, I'm not really sure if it's going to revert back to... I don't think it'll be Jack Lundstrom Kamara, for example, as a 3. I would be surprised if we went back to that. But we just have to wait and see. I just want whatever he decides to do, that we're playing on the front foot with a tempo.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments how you guys think we'll set up, if you think we'll see that sort of 4-3-2-1 and with the inverted wingers, and because I know I'm only going on the very, very brief QPR highlights that I've seen, and it seemed to be that was the way that he set up down there, and it was very similar towards the Gerrard's time at Rangers as well. A question, I wasn't planning on asking this, but I've seen it mentioned quite a few times in the comments already, Kyran, but it's about Rangers. A lot of people seem to think that we'll now be playing a lot more youth players. Do you see that as something that Beale will do, promote youth players? I'm looking at guys like Lowry, who looked, I know it's only a training video, but he looked unbelievable in that training video. Another guy that really caught my eye was Zach Lovelace as well. You could really hear the coaches, who we'll come on to later, really, really encouraging him to strike a ball. He looks good. So do you see us promoting guys like this from the development squad up to the first team under Beale?
I'd love to see it, but I think the time will come. With any Rangers manager, the difficulty with promoting youth is that they're under pressure to win trophies and win every single game. And if promoting youth comes as a cost of that, not winning things, then we won't be doing it. But the flip side of it is, if they're ready, then why not get them in there? I think in terms of Alex Lowry's case, I think he's been frustrated at the lack of first-team football, maybe frustrated that he didn't get a loan move and that he remained and he's not had his chance, albeit he has been injured. But there was a time and place where he could have had his chance and wasn't given it, unfortunately. Now, going back to what we were speaking about in terms of style of play and formation, I think the style of play and formation under Beale suits Alex Lowry to the ground.
Yes.
Now, I know that we were at a stage where if Ryan Kent wasn't playing, then Lowry would have got his chance, and Ryan Kent not playing is next to no time. It never ever happens. Now that you've got this sort of, a lot of the time in the 55 season where we've seen a lot of the wingers switch around, if you can even call them wingers, when they came inside, that's his position. You've got guys like Tillman as well that's really going to breed off this. But a guy I'd love to see get a chance, and I think he's done well, is Charlie McCann when he's come in. Now, I know a lot of the time he got into good positions and missed a lot of chances at Ibrox, but if you're getting in their positions, once that guy's got a good few games under his belt, he's going to relax. He's going to score goals. He's going to do well for us. In terms of the here and now, I don't think there's money there to be spent in January. So guys are going to get a chance. Our squad's quite depleted with injuries, and I think that'll be the same when we come back. 5 weeks off doesn't just change that overnight. Like, that doesn't really make much sense, but it doesn't really change it in terms of injuries. Like, Goldson's still going to take a while to come back. We might see Hadji sooner. Hollander, I don't think we'll see this season. So guys like Leon King at the back, King's still going to hold his place there. So I think that's the one. King's definitely going to hold his place. We can guarantee that. But in terms of Lowry, McCann, they're going to have a spring in their step, knowing how Beale plays, that they are going to get their chance, which is a good thing. It's a really good thing.
Yeah, I think that there's no argument against it that training video was really, there was, I don't know if it's just a new manager thing or because maybe, I don't know, I'm quite, I religiously watch the training videos before every game midweek. Scott, I see you nodding your head there as well in agreement with me, because you love Rangers, you want to see everything that's going on, and you know, there just seemed to be a zip, a buzz about it, and everybody was really encouraged. And as I said, Kamara shooting, when do you ever see stuff like that happening? So,
were you watching the right video?
Aye.
Do you know something? Compare this to No Tricks, Tricks Are for the Circus video. There was a feeling about me at that point where I was like, my God, Ryan Kent lives and breathes on tricks. What are we going to see here? And well, here we are now, aren't we?
Yeah, well, that's it exactly. So no, I'm really looking forward to it. Look, Cammy, it's because of your name there, Scott. Scott, I'll come to you on this next point, and it was the sort of the last wee bit of the Sky Sports interview that was released today, and it specifically where Beale alluded to Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos. The first thing I noticed about him when he talked about that was Beale stated that he said he will get to have an opinion on this for sure. So I think that shows that he'll be working with Wilson on that. A question we maybe had in the past of Gio was he picking the players? I think it's no secret that it was a glaring omission that we had Ajax's youth academy director in Van Bronckhorst, not one Dutch player in the team, and he says that he speaks very highly of both players, and he thinks that they are capable of more than they are showing. Do you foresee a change in attitude from guys like Morelos and Kent now Beale's in?
I think there's some players were delighted with the managerial change, and I think Ryan Kent is 100%. He'll be buzzing off it, and I think it's very honest from Michael Beale. He's not slaughtered the players, but he's basically said he knows what they're capable of. They haven't been performing to the level, so I think they're going into the last 6 months of their contract. I think Michael Beale, Ross Wilson, we spoke about it in our chat today with regard to who would like, and I think Michael Beale will want both players to extend their contract. To be honest with you. But the caveat to that is they have to be shown it. And I think he referenced about being all in. I think it's one that a lot of them use with regard to, if you're not shown you're committed, you'll just get moved to the side, and he'll work with players that are showing the right attitude and fitness and application and all that sort of thing. So Kent has had a frustrating season. I'm just going to say now, when we done our predictions at the start of the season, which are never to be seen ever again, yeah. I had Ryan Kent. This was going to be his season. He was going to get goals. He was going to get assists. He was going to be Player of the Year. He was going to be up for the Ballon d'Or in a couple of years' time, and it's just not happened. But he is one of those players that I think Michael Beale has known. I think he said, I've known him since he was a 14-year-old boy. So he knows what makes Ryan Kent tick. He can also communicate with Alfredo. I think Alfredo's condition, physical condition, I think is the biggest thing that Michael Beale has over the next couple of weeks to get him into a physical condition and then work with what's going on inside the head. But I would love to see both players stay, but it's up to both players that they have to show Michael Beale.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that one as well. I think it will be interesting. I think he'll be really keen, especially with Morelos, to push a new deal. RFC 56 says, I would give Kent another chance, but definitely not Morelos. I think it's often when I'm doing these shows, I know that RFC 56 isn't a fan of Alfie, and I can partly understand where he's coming from with his attitude and work rate sometimes. I think it's fair enough. But Kyran, are you in that camp? Do you think, would you give Morelos a new deal or Kent a new deal as well? And how do you think guys like this will perform under Beale, especially since Beale, did he say in his interview that he'd known Ryan Kent since he was like 14 or something like that?
Yeah,
that's got to be family. Yeah, that's got to be very rare in a professional football club where the manager's known one of his players for so long.
Yeah, to be honest, I'd be surprised if that conversation hadn't happened already. But with Kent, I absolutely love Kent at Rangers. He's underperformed this year, but I think he's been a victim of that style of play, and it worked last year in Europe, but then again coming into this season, there's probably part of him thinking, I don't want to play in this style of play, maybe it's not for me anymore. Now that Beale's come back in, he'll get a lift from that, trust me. Hopefully we now see the good side of Ryan Kent, because let's not beat around the bush, under Gerrard and Beale, he did have barren spells as well, where he went through the motions and then he started to peak again. There's a player in there, and we all know how good he can be in his day. That Ryan Kent that scared the life out of Celtic every time we played against him. I think we're going to see that again. I really do, because I've got a lot of faith in Beale's style of playing, the way that he goes about things. In terms of Morelos, it's easy to forget how good he can be as well. But if we remember back again under Gerrard and Beale, that folk were getting frustrated at how deep he dropped. Now, what if we could factor into him dropping deep and Čolak staying higher, and it now becomes a characteristic of our style of play? He then becomes very, very important to Rangers, and there's no doubt he can do a job. But once again, he's got to be worth it. He's got to be worth that new deal. What if we sign up to this season's Alfredo Morelos for another 4 years? That's not good business whatsoever.
Yes, it's very, very divided in the comments. I can see a lot of people saying that Morelos should go, and if we can get money for him at January, sell him. And I've seen a couple of comments saying Beale should be able to get the best out of him. I think overwhelmingly people want to keep Ryan Kent as well, which is good to see, because he's an entertainer at the end of the day. I think he's arguably the most technically gifted player in our squad. Kyle,
see the thing with Alfredo. Listen, I'm team Alfredo. I'm surprised my wee boy hasn't came on the comments downstairs. He loves Buffalo, but a 4-year contract isn't going to happen. But I think the way I'm looking at it is, if Michael Beale can get Alfredo and Ryan Kent tied to another 2-year contract, like get 2 years onto it, so that we then get a value. So that as it stands, we paid £1 million for Alfredo, and we have had more than our money's worth for him. Ryan Kent we paid £7 million for, and probably £1 million a year across the last 4 years. So there's that point of it as well. They have to show that they deserve the contract, but there's the business side of it as well. That if you could get them tied, what would that be? 2025 2-year contract. You're not giving Morelos a 4-year contract, and then he can coast sort of thing. But I think as it stands just now, of the two, I would think Ryan Kent is more likely to extend his contract of the two, to be honest.
Yeah, you were talking sense here in terms of return and investment and value in terms of these players as well, but it's just it never works that way with football fans. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. That if you look at it as in terms of an investment, have we got our money's worth out of Morelos? 100%. Have we got our money's worth out of Kent? Maybe a debate up about that one. But yeah, I think he's certainly gone some way in recouping that in terms of helping us get to the Champions League. But in terms of the next point, I'll go to you on this one, Scott, if that's all right. It's just really keen to get your thoughts and guys. I know we've already alluded to a couple of them in the podcast already, but guys like Yilmaz and Tillman, I know that Beale alluded to Lawrence, especially in his interviews. I think he talked about Ben Davies as well, which is quite interesting to see. And this is what I'm saying. Coming back to this, Kyran, I put Matondo, and then I've got a big question mark in my notes. I know there's somebody that in my work that comes in, and he said that he's very, very keen to see how Matondo will work in that system. I think he thinks that he's going to be a totally different player under Beale. But do you agree with that, Scott? Do you think that we are going to see guys like this thrive in a Beale system? Are these players that are suited to this, the way that he plays?
I think repeating what I said with regard to playing on the front foot at a tempo and attacking football, I would love to be in a place where we've got one sitting midfield player, whether that is John Lundstrom, Sands, Davis, Jack, whoever that may be, and the two players next to them were Lawrence and Tillman. That for me, in 80% of the games that we play domestically, and then you've got Cholak or Morelos as your central striker, and Kent and say Matondo or Kemal Roof or whatever it may be, but you've got 5 attacking players plus Tarvin Yilmaz, so you're playing with 7 attackers. Good luck to the 3 boys that are having to do the running about and defending, right enough. But yeah. I think Yilmaz is a player that will definitely feature far more. And I think Kemal Roof coming back into fitness, how long that may last. But I think he's a player that Michael Beale knows and trusts.
Yeah, again, that was another name that was very notably mentioned in that interview, was when he said that, he reminded us that Kemal Roof was the top goal scorer in the 55 season, and he's still at the club. And if there's anybody to get a tune out of him, again, I think Michael Beale will be the man. Kyran, it's the exact same question to you. Are you excited to see guys like Yilmaz and Tillman and Lawrence all working in this, what is a very, very attacking and direct system?
Yeah, 100%. Guys, to be honest, see Lawrence, thinking about Michael Beale, I'll be honest, I completely forgot about him. I know that sounds terrible, but because he's been injured, I think he'll feature primarily as a central midfielder, though. The reason I say that is because Beale loves a winger, but he loves an inverted winger. Remember, we go back to that coaching podcast we were talking about. He was going on about how he loves signing wingers because he was a winger himself back in the day. And I remember under Gerrard, we had an absolute abundance of wingers. So it'll be interesting to see where he plays him. Yilmaz, you've got a young player there that is very, very raw. I think he needs to work harder, but he's got all the technical ability there to be a top class number 10 or even a number 8 that goes box to box. But Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the style of play. Watching that, I know it'll be famously coined the horseshoe under Van Bronckhorst. Just, I lost what little hair I've got left here watching at times. So, I'm looking forward to see what Beale does. I'll be absolutely stunned if it's not that 4-3-2-1. And I don't know if anybody's seen the tweet or the TikTok that's going about now. It was an interview with Jermaine Defoe a while ago, and he was talking about the conversation with Michael Beale about, look, Alfredo's going to be out for a while. Do you mind playing through the middle yourself? What I'm going to do is, instead of the wingers playing as wingers, we're going to pull them in and they're going to play close to you, so that all you need to do is occupy the two centre-backs, let these guys move around about you, and they'll create your chances. And we've seen that it worked, that tweak, and then we never looked back. The three midfielders that sort of go and shut down wide players was something that we hadn't seen before. It was almost like they played like your left of central midfield went out to left mid when the opposition was coming down their right, and vice versa. It was a three that worked almost like a four, and it is that style of play suits guys like Kamara to the ground. But it'll be interesting to see how the guys that haven't played under Beale adapt to that. But I've got no doubt that would suit Tom Lawrence a lot in terms of a guy that works hard, likes to get stuck in, likes to get on the ball. I think it's going to suit him down to the ground, so I'm excited to see that. But once again, we've got so many injuries. So it's going to be refreshing to see these guys come back and fit into the system.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the last comment or the last part of the podcast where we'll talk about the actual playing squad, I think I'll go to this and I'll come to you on this, Scott, if that's all right. It's a simple question from Stuart Keane. Will Čolak fit into Beale's system?
But if he scores goals, then you know, I think you know what camp I'm in. I want Alfredo Morelos to be the Rangers centre forward, but without Čolak this season, I dread to think where we would actually be. So he is the man in possession, and it's up to Alfredo to get his finger out, get himself in a physical condition to make himself the number one striker. So I don't think he will have a type, but that could be longer term. I think short term, Antonio Čolak will be the guy that starts the next few games. I don't have any doubt about that. Whether he's a centre forward for us moving forward after that, then, but what he's got here and now, I think he will undoubtedly fit into the system, and hopefully he keeps scoring goals.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to poke the bear there, literally and metaphorically, and it never worked. So fair play to sticking for your guns there, Scott, and staying aboard the Alfie train. Look, that's it in terms of the playing staff. I think it's important that we talk about some of the coaching staff that we've brought in as well. I was having a wee look today, and I look at the guys. The three definite appointments are Neil Banfield, Damien Matthew, and Harry Watling. Just to give everybody a wee bit of an insight in some of these guys, I know that everybody that's watching, viewing, will have already done their own research and we're straight on to see who these guys were. But Neil Banfield, he seems to be the one that intrigues me the most out of all the coaches we brought in. A wee bit about his history is he's going to be Beale's assistant. Obviously, he's worked with him at QPR. He began at Arsenal in the academy and oversaw guys like Ashley Cole, Jack Wilshere, Fabregas and Van Persie all being promoted to the first team. So again, another guy in our coaching staff who's got experience at promoting youth. And then he basically was told by Wenger, I want you in my first team coaching staff. He's got a bit of a reputation for being a no-nonsense guy and saying it how it is, which was definitely a criticism of the Gio regime in terms of us being too soft on people at times. Another guy that we brought in, Damien Matthews, a first-team coach, played in the Premier League with Chelsea and Crystal Palace, and again has been a coach at loads of clubs like Charlton, Wolves, and QPR as well. And Harry Watling, and it was Kieran that said this to me before we came on. He's the set-piece specialist. That's something that I hadn't actually seen. But a couple of things about his credentials was he was one of the youngest ever English coaches to get his UEFA A licence at 26, which is bonkers. I'm sure you'll attest to that, being a coach as well, Kyran. And he's been involved in the academy at Chelsea, Millwall, and West Ham. Interesting enough, I saw that he was also a head coach at the USL Championship side, Hartford Athletics. So he's got experience as a manager as well, which is interesting. I'll come to you on this, Kyran. What's your thoughts on these guys being involved, especially Banfield and his and the reputation that he has for being quite a disciplinarian and just telling people if it is, calling a spade a spade?
Yeah, I think we need that. When you were speaking about Beale's interview, he spoke a lot about standards as well. Now, when you've got someone there who is a bit of a disciplinarian amongst the staff, then it can only bode well for things. If I'm being really honest, I thought standards slipped a bit during Van Bronckhorst's reign. We heard a lot of whispers about Matondo's attitude, Kamara's attitude, being late for a lot of things. You've seen what happened with Morelos, being out quite a lot. We need somebody that's straight talking in there, because when you're managing a team of players and a team that have maybe took their eye off the ball a wee bit since going to the Europa League final, then maybe there's a problem with egos in the dressing room. I'm just speculating when I say that. But when you've got guys like him that have worked at Arsenal with big players and he is a straight talker, I'd hope he wouldn't have a problem saying things to the bigger players that have stepped out of line slightly, because standards is something that Rangers lives and breathes on, and it must be like that on a day-to-day basis. And I think I read somewhere else that Bamford played a big part in Beale actually getting into coaching at that level. So there's a good relationship there. And it was something that when we were bringing Beale in, I did think about. I wonder if some of Gerrard's staff will come with him in terms of your culture and stuff like that. But what's the guy's second name again? Harry
Watling.
Harry Watling, yes. So a lot of fans were delighted to see when the words set-piece specialist were next to his name. It's something that we've been crying out for. Under Gio, it was so bad at times, it was unbelievable. Every time there was an in-swinging corner, then we knew we were up against it. That's where we were targeted by the lesser teams that would sit in, that we knew they would have a chance every single set-piece. So hopefully the tide changes in that sense. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see. Now, listen, we didn't know who Michael Beale was when he came in with Gerrard. So in that sense, it's the same with these guys. It's going to be really interesting to see who they got on. Who knows? The next Rangers manager might be one of their names.
There we go. Been in the door 3 days and you've already got Harry Watling down as not the next Rangers manager, but the manager after him.
I don't even know where to go for there.
We're clipping that as well, Kyran.
I'm having a nightmare tonight.
Not at all, man. And look, Scott, again, I'd be really keen to get your thoughts on these guys. I see a couple of comments relating to especially that we've been crying out for a set piece coach from Brian Spark there. What's your thoughts on the personnel that we seem to have brought in, and would you add anybody else? Fitness coach, cough.
Well, I think Tom Culshaw, I think, was our set piece coach, I think, under the previous regime. So I think you can safely say he's not going to be coming back. Set piece coach, I just want when we have a corner that we vary it. It's no, I'm not looking for like the most fantastic set pieces that have to be different, but it's just try in swinger, try out swinger, try short corners, try, rather than just like the St Johnstone game a couple of weeks ago where Ian Crocker told us we had 122 corners in the first 25 minutes, but we tried to do the same thing every time. So that's work that's going to be going on in the training pitch.
Yeah.
That we aren't just doing this. What's the thing they say about doing the same? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. So,
yeah, set
pieces are all about variation, and I think defensive set pieces. It'll be interesting to see what sort of approach we have to defending. The Banfield, huge reputation. Obviously working with Arsene Wenger. Arsene Wenger doesn't get you involved if you don't have something about you. somebody else coming in, I think there probably will be another couple. Jordan Milsom would be nice. It'll be interesting to see if he brings in a local coach. And I think I spoke about this a couple of days ago. They have to, just because they played for Rangers isn't a qualification to get a job. They have to have the credentials. They have to be able to bring something to the party in the training ground and on and off the park. So the usual suspects I'll be linked. But does it have to be somebody that's been at Rangers? Can it just be somebody that is good within Scotland? That I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but is there somebody that would come in and supplement what we've got? You know, I'd love to see Kevin Thompson, Neil McCann.
Yeah.
Lee McCulloch's another one, and people would probably turn their nose up at it, but he's been an assistant and he's got a bit of experience as well, you know. But I'm just throwing names. I'm no Lee McCulloch's agent or anything like that. I'm just trying to throw suggestions. But I think there will still have to be another couple come in to supplement what's there. But all very exciting.
Can I add to that? Sorry, it is very exciting because you look at where we were just a month or so ago. We had the goalkeeper taking set pieces in training. Sorry, the goalkeeping coach taking set pieces in training. We had the kitman at one point taking the warm-ups. We had, when Giovanni first came in, him and Roy Mackay, and then Dave Voss came later on, and then he started to build with coaches that were already there in the first place, and that's no stinting them. I don't know how good or bad they've done, but it's refreshing to see a team of guys that are coming in that have got unbelievable CVs that look like they really could work as a team and alongside Beale, because he was once in their position in the first place. So I'm glad we've got a team of coaches coming in that all bring their own styles to the table, considering where we were not so long ago.
Yeah, again, totally agree with everything you've both said there. I don't think it's necessary at all that we have to bring in somebody that's Rangers minded. For me, it's all about the credentials and how good a coach they are, because we've already got the Rangers minded manager for me, and everything he said in his interviews, he speaks like somebody that has been supporting Glasgow Rangers since he was born. So I don't think it's the be all and end all if we don't get somebody with a Rangers man on. But guys like you talk about Neil McCann, I'd love to have him on board, but because I think he's a good coach and I like the way he talks about football. Kevin Thompson as well, I think he's a good coach as well. He shows you what he's done at Kelty Hearts, and I love hearing him. And I'm sure we all heard that the BBC interview that he had with Tom English, and it was fantastic. And yeah, it'd be interesting. It's not necessary to have guys around the club like that, but it would be nice. Look, there's 3 points that I'd maybe quite like to just rattle through quite quickly. I'll come to you in this one first, Kyran, if that's all right. It's Jordan Campbell mentioned that Rangers as well spoke to the Alanyaspor manager, Francesco Farioli. I know, seeing as you're keen about talking about ones for the future in this podcast, is it encouraging maybe that the board have maybe like talked to a guy like that, or do you think it was just a bit of a smokescreen to say that we had in fact discussed the vacancy with other candidates?
I'm 100% on board with you that this is a smokescreen, and it's been fed to a guy that works very close to Rangers. I think it's been sent as a smokescreen because it's very reminiscent of when we brought Van Bronckhorst in, that we spoke to 3 different candidates, because we all know we didn't. There was only pictures of Ross Wilson meeting Giovanni in London, and there was no pictures of him meeting anybody else. So we know that we only spoke to Van Bronckhorst, and things moved on pretty quickly there. I think it's the same in this case. They knew they wanted Beale. I think they've had their eye on him for a wee while, and you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. If they had spoke to him and the off chance that the Rangers job comes up, then it was his, considering that he knocked back the Wolves job, not knowing how long Van Bronckhorst would last in this job. It feels very much to me like it is a smokescreen to sort of help the reputation of guys working in the boardroom that are under pressure at the moment.
Yeah, that's fair enough. My next point, Scott, I'll come to you on this. just what's your reaction to the Scottish Cup draw? I think it was Monday, was that made on, that we've drawn St Johnstone away, playing them on the 21st of January. I suppose this is a veiled question to ask you how important you feel that the two domestic cups now are to Beale. Is it a must-win both? Would you be happy with one, or would you rather be concentrated in the league?
I think the cup. Go back to the cup draw. I was delighted that my bank account wasn't going to be hit with £25 on the 1st of January. But no, tricky sort of away tie. We play them in the league the following week at Ibrox, which is never particularly enjoyable when you're going to have the same opposition back to back. But we've got the cup semi-final. We've got the cup semi-final against Aberdeen the week before that at Hampden. So I think it's important that we reach the League Cup final and get to the final. You would imagine it's going to be Celtic that we face there, and then it's a case of progressing through the rounds in the Scottish Cup. Similar time many years ago, Dick Advocaat left and Alex McLeish took over from him, and we were in probably a similar state of flux, shall we say. Yeah. And he had a better group of players to work with, you know, Caniggia and guys like that. But Alex McLeish had an instant impact. We went to Celtic Park maybe a couple of months later and we won by a couple of goals. We lifted the League Cup, and then we ended the season winning the Scottish Cup. So that can happen again, and I think that will ease pressure on Michael Beale if he can end the season with a couple of cups. I think he certainly has to end the season with silverware. I think that's definite, because without being too pessimistic, we can't have them lifting a domestic treble, you know. And I know Michael Beale has to get time, but you're right up against it if you allow that to happen over the next 6 months. So again, has to hit the ground running, winning games early doors. But I think it's vitally important that we lift something, and if we can lift a couple of cups and get closer in the league. I've not gave up on the league. You know, a lot of people have gave up on the league, but if we get to the position where we can win the league games before we play them on the 2nd of January, apply a bit of pressure and get it back to 6 points. Who's to say? But I think we have to get a bit closer in the league, and ideally lift the 2 cups.
Yeah, that's why I like having you on the pod, Scott, because you're the eternal optimist, aren't you? Always bring a bit of positivity when I'm a bit dour about things. But I totally agree with, you know, Paul McGarrigle there, that he needs to put down a marker with the cups. I know this is going a bit of a long pod. I've got one final point, oddly enough, not Rangers related, that I'm really keen to get Kyran's thoughts on, being a coach. And it actually seems to be the SFA have made what I would credit as being quite a unique and sort of leading initiative, in terms of that they decided to restrict heading before and after matches, as leading research from the University of Glasgow discovered that football players are up to, and this is insane, 3.5 times more likely to die from a brain-related disease. Talking about, you know, dementia and stuff like that. What do you think of this initiative, Kyran? Is it a good thing? And is it? Are you surprised that the SFA appear to be, and it's not something you say often, world leaders in this? Because to my knowledge, there's not another league in the world that's doing something like this.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to see them on the front foot for a change. In terms of heading, it seems to be something that's coming to the forefront around the world with football. It was Alan Shearer who'd done a documentary on it in the BBC just over a year ago, saying how much it is related to brain-related diseases like dementia, etc. For me, it only benefits. Like, how much do you have to practice heading in training? I remember our treasurer, when I was coaching this time last year, had text saying, look, I think we should stop doing heading in training, because the SFA at the time had sent out a sort of blanket email across all the clubs, even at amateur level, to say about the dangers of heading in football on the back of that documentary. So it is a good move. I like it in a way, but you should be practicing with your feet anyway. Very much the old school with that. And I don't know too much about the research. I'll admit to that it's obviously been a big factor previously, where the balls have been a lot heavier and of a different style, where it's been, I know, like older gents that I've spoke to have saying it was like heading a medicine ball, these things. So you can see why this causes issues. You alluded earlier that I'm quite heavy into my NFL. Like, concussion is a huge factor to what's happening over there, and they're still making moves to make the game safer. And when you look deep into the conditions that can only be detected once you've passed, that things like CTE and stuff like that, I don't know for anyone that's watched Aaron Hernandez documentary, that blows to the head are very, very dangerous. And like I said, I don't know the full extent of the study at Glasgow University, but I can't imagine that heading a ball too many times is good for you. And I can vouch for that. I'm born with a big head for a reason. And so, as it's a step in the right direction, it's good to see that they're doing something about it.
Yeah, totally agree. It's just nice to speak about the SFA positively for once, and I think it's a great initiative, and you know, it's something very close to me, and I'm glad that they are taking action on it. But look, that's been a lot longer than I was. This is meant to be a half-hour podcast, but we've got a new manager and lots to talk about, so I think an hour was exactly what it deserved. But I just want to say thanks to the two guys that joined us tonight. Thanks very much, Scott.
Thank you, guys. It's been good. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, and thanks very much, Kyran. Nice to see you back on.
It's always a pleasure to be on, and hopefully I don't see some of these clips again where I've made predictions that don't quite come to fruition.
No, that is. Listen, I'm already getting Harry Watling on for the 2030 manager race, so there you go. But, look, thanks to everybody for tuning in and watching. It was really good to interact and see all the comments as per. Just remember, give us a like and subscribe. We're on all the usual channels. The next show will be on Sunday, 8 o'clock. I'm not sure who's taking that one, but I know it'll be a fantastic show with lots to talk about. But take care, everybody, and we will see you all soon.